1 minute. Rajesh, you're recording, right?
Yeah, I'm doing that, and I did, like we decided, I'm doing that half
Yeah.
and half thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Hi, Deva. How are you?
Rajesh.
Good, good. Okay, so it's 8:30 and I have a very hard stop at 9:30. So we will get started. As always, we'll get started with the prayer. Sahanavavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Actually, I didn't share with audio, so apologies for that. Okay, so now it's good. Sorry about that. Okay, welcome back, and let's continue our discussion on chapter 7. So today we are going to see, in fact, only 3 verses. Otherwise, it is going to be too much. 20, 21, and 22 we will see. And the remaining verses we will see next week, because more than 3 in an online session may not be good. So this chapter, I really love this chapter because it talks about the nature of God. It tries to give a clear picture and understanding about Ishvara and the truth, absolute reality of the universe. Because the vision of the Gita is not the God. Typically, what we say, believe in God. Here we go one step further and we say that God needs to be understood. So this chapter gives a clear understanding of the nature of God, Ishvara. So we saw that in a very systematic fashion. And in the last week, last couple of weeks, we were talking about 2 types of people. One people are people who do not do good activities, or they do not have the maturity, or because of their karma, they don't recognize the presence of God in the universe. They don't recognize the intelligent order of the universe. And as a result, what happens? They fall into these asuric tendencies. Asuric tendencies means for them, sense world is everything. For them, the priority is to get sense objects. There is nothing wrong in that, but you have to go beyond that. And then we saw the second category of people whom Krishna called as Sukritaha, the one who has done some good deeds, the one who has got little bit maturities. They do understand the presence of Ishvara in their life and in the universe. In other words, they recognize the intelligent order of the universe. They see that, okay, this universe, it will be a chaos if there is no governance and there is an intelligence order behind the universe. We saw different examples. So when they recognize that intelligent order of the universe, people try to relate or people try to connect with that intelligent order of the universe in many ways. Depending upon the type of interactions, we saw that there are 4 categories of people. Arthaha, remember? What are they? 4 categories.
Arthaga, Artharthi,
Jitsu and Jnani.
Perfect. That is what it is. Arthaha means when do they seek Ishvara?
When they are in trouble.
Absolutely. Artharthi?
When they want to achieve something.
Excellent. Jitnyasu?
Going above and beyond, but not reach there yet.
Yes. They are striving. They are in the process of knowing. They are trying to, means all of us belongs to that category. And finally, Jnani means the one who knows Ishvara. So then Krishna tells, out of all these devotees are good. Means he's saying that one is bad, the other is good. He's just saying that it is the level of maturity. Like you start from here and you will go. And another thing we saw in our extensive discussion on this topic means a jitnyasu can be an artha also. A jitnyasu can be a artharthi also, right? So all that permutation, combination, everything is there. But once you are a jnani, right, you're always connected with Ishvara. For other people, their connection is temporary. I gave the example of the olden dial-up connections of the internet. Whenever you need to get internet, you have to dial in, right? There was a modem and you have to dial in. All of you might be remembering that time, some 20 years back, when internet was introduced. But here now you have a dedicated Fios or a fiber optical line, 24/7 it is available, that is Jnani. So we saw that. And then we saw like this state of Jnani, it is not easy to achieve. And Krishna say, Bahunam Janmana Mante, right? Means a person will achieve this state only after a lot of birth, because it takes a lot of time, right, to mature into this level. And once you mature, he will see that Vasudeva Sarvamiti. He see that he will recognize everything in this universe is filled with that absolute reality. So when he see the sun, he see the God in that sun. When he see the moon, he see the God in that moon. When he see the water, he see the God or the Ishvara there. Because vas means that which perverts everywhere. That which perverts everywhere in the sense that which stays with every object. So that is Brahman or the absolute reality. So Vasudeva Sarvamiti. So he recognized that Ishvara everywhere. And what is that person's nature? Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. That such a person is very hard to find. Krishna admits. So it's a consolation, right? It's a consolation also for us, because after reading this chapter, initially, what would be the first impression? I'm either an artha or a artharthi, maximum striving to be a jitnyasu. There is no wonder. Most of the people are like that. So that much we saw. So we will continue. And today we are going to see, this topic is very interesting. Next few verses are very interesting. This is again a beautiful verse. It tells Kamair Staistair Hrita Jnanaha. So some people, right, who could not find that higher reality or the Atma or the Brahman, what happens? Their knowledge, why a lot of people are missing Ishvara? Why a lot of people who are seeking Ishvara's blessing, they are not able to, they are not interested in the knowledge part, right? Because we saw this part very clearly. The Artha, Artharthi and Artharthi, when they seek Ishvara, they are seeking Ishvara not for as an end. They are seeking Ishvara only as a means. Remember why an Artha seeks Ishvara? What is his real goal? To get out of his problem. That is the goal. And Ishvara is a means or a tool to achieve that. And so is the case of Artharthi. Artharthi is like that. I want that house. So I seek Ishvara's blessing to get that house. That is Artharthi. So why are they missing Ishvara as the final goal? Why? This question is being addressed and answered. So Krishna tells there is nothing surprising here. What happens is typically you have uncontrolled desires. So the kamair staistai kritajnanaha, your wisdom, because typically if you can think, you know that acquiring this object is not going to make you free from suffering, or possessing that object is not going to make you completely happy and secure. So this is very simple. Everybody knows that. And everybody knows that the happiness is lying within us. No doubt about that. But their knowledge is robbed away, or the knowledge is cluttered by what? Their own desires. When that desire come in, I don't think any other thing. Sometimes what happens, when the desire comes in, you don't even think about the consequences. Right? Ravana had everything in the world. Right? Swami Chinmayananda was describing this verse, and his joke was Ravana had everything under the sun in his Lanka, but he also wanted Mrs. Rama also. That is why he got suffered. Ravana was a knowledgeable person. A lot of people think that Ravana is an Asura, but he is a scholar of Samaveda. He was a master of singing, and the Shivatandava Stotra was composed by Ravana. So it's not that Ravana do not have knowledge and got into the trouble. Duryodhana, for example, he knew what is right and what is wrong. Anybody know that famous verse in Mahabharata? Duryodhana tells, there is a famous verse given by Vyasa to indicate this, this particular portion. He tells, Jnanami dharmam nachame pravritti, jnanami adharmam nachame nivritti. This is the word, exact words of Duryodhana. I know what is dharma. What is the problem? I cannot practice it. It contradicts with my likes and dislikes. So another example, right? All of you know that the simplest example is the eating. All of you know that you cannot eat too much sugar. You are pre-diabetic and you cannot eat sugar. But when you see the sweets, your knowledge is robbed away by the desire. This is a classic example. Like that, lot of other things in the world. It could be the family, it could be the money, it could be the position, it could be a branded car, it could be a big house, or it could be anything. Lot of desires are there. There is nothing wrong in having that desire, but as long as I have control over the desires. But here what happens? Because of this avalanche of desires, my own knowledge will be robbed away. So what happens? Instead of settling with the highest, I try to get that small things. So he tells what? Prapadyante anya devata. So then what happened? When I get all these desires, naturally what I do? I turn to other gods. My God, this is confusing. And some fanatics, when they explain this, you know how they explain this verse? When you have such desires, from Krishna, you go to other devata, meaning Shiva and Ganapati, etc. That's it. That's not the one, right? So devata, we need to understand. Devata, deity. So the devata means what is, it comes from the root, that which shines, right? Devata means that which shines. That is a power center in the universe. A power center from which I can tap the power is Ishvara. Symbolically, it is a name and form is given, and you assign. Golden Vedic period, you had different such devatas like the sun, the moon, the water, the Varuna, the Agni. All these were personified forms of these phenomenal forces. Phenomenal forces were devata, and there were other devata. So these are the main deities. Second is what? For example, if you want to seek wealth, you seek Kubera. or goddess Lakshmi. All these are devatas. Then, in fact, if those who are interested in Tantra, you know, like there are three categories of devatas. One is these main deities are there. And then there is a second category of deities are there. They are Upadevata. What they call is, means they don't have a full power, because these Upadevatas reports to the main Devata. So the sub power centers within a power center is known as Upadevata. And then you have these negative power centers like Rakshasas, all these negative forces. They are also, they are tamasic, but they are also can grant you boon and make your wishes fulfilled. Please, please, please understand. Let's take this to our day-to-day life. So I'm an ordinary person. I'm a samsari. I believe that my goal is not to know Brahman. My goal is to get that $1 million house. So if that is my goal, what would I pursue? Wealth, correct? So I pursue wealth. All my effort, all my skills, everything will be used to pursue wealth. That is that can be considered as turning to other gods. Wealth is considered as a deity, and I'm pursuing that. Instead of coming to me as Brahman, all-pervading reality, I will seek wealth. And that is exactly what it is. So some people, there are two ways to pursue any goal. One is you can do worldly actions and pursue it. So if it is wealth, let's assume that Kubera is the goddess. So how do I pursue wealth? I may invest money in stock. I will work hard. And if I go for a negative thing, I do some scams. All these are different means. For example, if I seek Swatik means, I will do only dharmic way. Like I may try to do something good for the company, and the company may give me a bonus. Along with me, my team members also get benefited. That is a Swatik way of pursuing wealth. What is a Rajasic way of pursuing wealth? I'm not hurting anybody, but I'm trying to invest money in stock. I do everything, but I'm not living dharma. I pursue money. That is also possible. And what is scams? All these scams. So when I pursue a goal through adharmic means, symbolically it is represented as I am pursuing these asuras and rakshasas. That is the case. So you see, like the negative worship. So what Krishna is saying here is that because of these overwhelming of the desires, because of these uncontrolled desires, your priority is not to know me. Your end goal is not me. The end goal is money or position or power. And what you do, instead of coming and means spending your time in understanding me, what you try to do is you give prioritize to other devatas. Other devatas are power centers of the universe. Now, what exactly is the nature of these other devatas? Tam niyamam astaya. So each of these devatas has their own rules and rituals. Suppose I'm going and doing a day trading, I need to follow that ritual. Suppose I'm doing a scam by hacking somebody's network. Right now, all of you might be getting hundreds of phishing mails. People are trying to take advantage of this corona. So you have to follow a ritual. What is that ritual? You will send a note saying that, okay, this is an important information of corona. So you have to follow a set of protocols. So invoking every deity has to follow its own protocol. So what I wanted to say is that this type of action is emulated and symbolically represented through Vedic rituals. So if you follow a Vedic ritual, you can see that these rituals prescribe its own specifics to do a ritual. And ancient times, my God, like how many block of bricks should be there, how many of them should be turned in one direction, all such details has to be followed. If you worship Shiva, it is a different type of worship. If you worship Krishna, it is a different type of worship. And Shiva is considered as Abhisheka Priya, right? They do Abhisheka on Shiva. And what do you do with Krishna or Vishnu? You do Alankara. So this is what happens. So every deity, like if it is Ganesha, there is a style of worship. If it is Saraswati, there is another style of worship. So every deity, that is exactly what it is. So if you are pursuing wealth in the world outside, you have a set of rituals to be followed. But then I'm pursuing the like a marathon runner. So then I need to invoke the deity of health. How do I invoke the deity of health? What I eat, I need to be careful. So again, I have to follow a set of protocols. These protocols are the Tantam Niyama. Whenever I invoke every power center, whenever I invoke a goal through a power center, I have to follow their protocol. And then he tells Prakritya Niyata Swayaha. So what exactly is my goal at a given time? And which deity I pick up to pursue that goal, it will be determined by my nature at that particular point of time. So my own nature, Prakriti. So this Prakriti or my temperament or my composition, right now, all of us are pursuing the scripture. That is our goal. A lot of people, they are watching TV because their vasanas, their inclination are towards that. So this is a beautiful verse. So Krishna tells why I am not, meaning I means I as the absolute reality is not the main priority of a lot of people. Because the previous verse he said, right? Only bahunam janmana mante. After only long life, a jnani will come, and such people are very rare. He is explaining the reason. So the reason is because of the karma, a lot of people get stuck with a lot of other desires, and they think that that desires can be fulfilled only by pursuing several other deities. And each of these deities, they follow the protocols and procedures and rituals for that deity. And finally, they pick up the desire as well as the deity to be followed based on their own nature. A lot of symbolism are there. So just try to understand, right? In the olden Vedic time, right? Suppose you don't have money, what they used to do? They do a puja. So every Laukika karma has a symbolic correspondence in the Vaidika, as Vaidika karma. So along with you pursue your financial goal, you go and do the, mean son or daughter, you do a putra kameshti. If you don't have rain, they do a ritual. So everything there is a ritual, and that ritual is a symbolic representation of pursuing a desire. It's a symbolic representation of pursuing the desire. And this desire can be pursued either by through a Vaidika karma or through a Laukika karma or through both. So understand the importance and the significance of this Vaidika karma. It just emulates a Laukika karma, and people used to do that. So every deity has its own rules and procedures. For example, again, I'm coming back to Swami Chinmayananda. So olden days, I don't know now how it happens. Olden days in India, right? Suppose you want to get the driver's license, what do you do? RTO office. So he will say that, okay, you see that clerk, he will be in that shop. So that is the protocol he has, that is the ritual. And you give Dakshina to the attendant, and then immediately your wish will be granted. That is a tamasic way of fulfilling. So this, please go beyond the Vedic ritual and try to apply this into the day-to-day life. Everywhere it is there. Suppose you want to study a certification, like suppose you want to get certified into, say, PMP, you have to follow a ritual. So you're invoking the goddess Saraswati, right? And how do you invoke for PMP? For PMP certification, you have to study this, you have to follow these hours, you have to put these, that, then only you will get it. So Tantam Niyamam Asthaya. Every goal, every deity has their own rules. So this is very important. So let me continue a little bit more elaboration. So the same thing. So then this is what it is. So their discrimination has been stolen away by the desires. And what happened? Intellect is clouded by delusion and unable to conceive of the supreme reality. And this happens to a lot of majority of the human being. And under this delusion, they are driven to approach other deities for fulfillment of their desires. And then what happened? Once the deity choose to approach, once a devotee choose to approach a deity, he will have to follow the protocols, all the rites and rituals of that deity. And then what happens? This way, his desires will be fulfilled. And the selection of the goal and the deities will be totally in accordance with the nature of the person. So one question, the other day, somebody was asking me, the question is pretty much related to this. Is the prayer works? Of course, the prayer works. So prayer, let me give a very logical explanation. So there is a beautiful story in one of the books. I believe it is Prathahari or somebody's book. So there was a sannyasi who was living in a jungle near a river. So one day when the sannyasi got up, what happened was a person is in his doorstep. He said, "Oh Rishi, there will be a flood today. Please come with us." Rishi said, "No, I'm sitting here and praying to God. So nothing will happen to me." So they left, all the villagers left. After some time, the flood came in. So his hut started sinking. So he got into the roof of the hut. What happened? After some time, he saw a boat coming in his way. They asked, "Can you come over?" He said, "No, I am sitting here and praying to God. God is going to help me." Extending this to further, this is a story of Swami Dayananda. So he extended this further and he said, the army helicopter came, the Navy helicopter came, because he was almost here. "Can you come? Can you hold on to that rope?" He said, "No, I'm praying to God. God is going to help me." What happened? He sank and died. So he went up to God. This monk was so furious with God. He asked, why didn't you answer my prayer?" What was God's response? "I did. I tried to save you 3 times. So we pray and we want the result to come, or everything comes exactly the way we want. So the prayer is a karma, and you know, right, every karma, whether it is good or bad or indifferent, it will produce a result. That result could be good, that result could be bad, and that result could be indifferent. But there will be a result. So the karma means prayer being a karma, it can produce 2 types of results. One is, the law of karma talks about that, right? Any karma can produce 2 types of result. One is called drishtam and the other one is called adrishtam. So the drishtaphala of prayer is, one is it will give you the emotional means satisfaction, meaning it will free you from anxiety and worry. If you pray with faith, okay? If you don't pray with faith, that won't get it. Second thing is what? The adrishtaphala. Adrishtaphala is what? This prayer, it is going to give you a good karma. That is for sure. So this is how the prayer work. And please don't say that it's like a human being crying. I mean, I think Vivekananda said, Vivekananda's comment. Vivekananda was saying that it is like a human being going out to a valley and trying to fly by flipping his hand and then praying and trying to fly. If he cannot pray, then concluding that human beings cannot fly. But the God has blessed you with an intellect with which you can build a plane and fly. So the prayer, the result of the prayer may not come exactly the way we want, but definitely the intelligent daughter of the universe knows what exactly right for us, and you will get it. So have that faith and do it. So this is just a question. Okay, that's good. Let's continue this same topic.
यो यो यां यां तनुं भक्तः श्रद्धयार्चितुमिच्छति तस्य तस्याचलां श्रद्धां तामेव विदधाम्यहम्.
Again, beautiful. He tells yo, yo, yam, yam. So 2 times. It just highlighting. So yo, yo, whoever, whoever, yam, yam, whatever, whatever. So whoever, whoever, and in whatever, whatever form of Ishvara they approach, what happens? And Shraddhayarchitum Ischati, with faith, try to connect with that form of deity. What happens? I will do one thing, Krishna said, right? Tasya tasyachalam shraddha tameva. This is very beautiful. Krishna said, I will make sure that they are getting strong in their faith. Such a eye-opening verse, right? So whatever form, whether it is in the form of Christ, whether it is in the form of Buddha, whether it is in the form of Rama or Allah or whatever faith, it doesn't matter how do you connect with Ishvara. Whatever form, whatever, whoever, right? He doesn't talk about Hindus or Indians or a particular caste, not at all. He means it is a universal pronoun he used. Universal pronoun means anybody, whoever he be who, and whatever form of deity he picks. And then if you try to connect and worship with them with the faith, what I will do as the universal intelligence, I will make sure that his faith is getting strong. So if you try to worship Ganesha, you will get the result. There is no problem. As an Artha Bharta, if you try to pray to, say, Saraswati, means the Parvati Devi, you will get the result. But again, the power of Parvati Devi is nothing but the absolute reality. It is that one absolute reality that manifests in different form. So Krishna is saying that it doesn't matter. Whatever forms you invoke me, I will bless you. I'll make sure that that faith is strengthened. I have no words, right? Now, where is the point of misinterpretation? When this verse is coming, how can you say that Krishna is only God and everybody else is false godhood? That's what they call. So this is very clear, crystal clear. So let's try to see the meaning a little bit further. So he tells, whoever be the devotee, like whether it is Artha or Artharthi or Jitnyasu or Jnani. So whatever it is, Jnani don't have to do that because he's always connected. So whoever be the devotee and whatever is the form he worship, and when he decides to worship with faith, what happened? The universal intelligence or the absolute reality or Krishna will make that faith unshakable. This is very, very important. So this is why you cannot look down anybody's faith. A tribal, when they do a rain dance, this is a classic example of Vivekananda. He said, like, when in Amazon jungles, when they do a rain dance worship, it is nothing less than an elaborate Vedic ritual worship. This is the point. So in means later point Krishna tells, right, whatever means you may give me a leaf, you may give me a water, and you may give me everything in the world, but I will treat everything same. It is very important to know that means depending upon your maturity and your level, you seek the blessings of the higher in different way. And whatever way you approach, for example, if you strive hard to get wealth, you will be blessed with wealth. You will be, means when you work hard with devotion and faith to seek knowledge, you will be blessed with. To improve your health, you will see that your health is improved, and that deity will bless you. So Krishna, when that deity bless you, and when you see the result, your faith will increase and you will work. So this is very important. So we answered two things. You pray, don't expect that the prayer will be answered exactly the way you want. The prayer will be answered the way it should be answered. Even though we don't have intelligence and maturity, God knows what is the right prayer, and he will answer it accordingly. No doubt about it. So have that belief. So thy will be done. That doesn't mean that you should not be praying. Like, you can ask anything, but know that just like your child, right? He or she can ask anything in the world, but you won't be giving anything which is not good for the child. So like that, just like the universal father or the mother, the God will grant all the wishes according to the right thing, the dharma, and what is to be done. So after studying this verse of the Gita, we should not be saying that Krishna is the only God and the other forms of worships are wrong. Every forms of the worship is completely acceptable here. So in Sanskrit, there is a Subhashita. I don't know whether you heard that. This is a brilliant Subhashita. Swami Vivekananda, in his opening lecture, quoted this verse to the world's parliament of religion, and which got a thunderous applause. So the verse is Akasha patitam toyam yatha gacchati sagaram sarva deva namaskaram keshavam prati gacchati. You heard of that verse? Akashat patitam toyam. The rainwater means it falls in different places, right? Yatha gacchati sagaram. Like it comes, means the rainwater means falls in different places. They comes to the ocean through different streams or different rivers. You cannot say that river 1 goes to the ocean and the river 2 won't go to the ocean. So just like that, he tells Sarva Deva Namaskaram. Whatever means, whenever you worship a higher form, of course it should be dharmic. Whenever you worship a higher form, what happens? Sarva Deva Namaskaram Keshavam Prati Gacchati. It goes to Keshava. The only problem is then these fanatics, they will say it goes to Keshava, means Krishna. Then you cannot do anything with such people. Okay, so one more verse we'll see.
Sataya Shraddhaya Yuktah Tasya Aradhanamihate Labhate Charatakaman Mayaiva Vihitan Hitan.
Now there is a wonderful doubt. How many deities people can reach out to? In Tamil Nadu and all, every village has their own Grama Devata. So hundreds of thousands. And there is a number in our culture, like that 330 million potential deities are there. So potentially you can invoke any of them. So how complicated is this? So Krishna tried to give an answer, very clear answer. He tells, Saya Sataya Shraddhaya Yuktam, endowed with that faith, because you don't worship a deity if you don't have faith. Even Vedic rituals, right? You don't do a ritual if you don't believe in it. Some people are forced to do because of spouse. That's a different thing, and you won't get benefit. If you don't believe it, better don't do it. You can follow the other rituals. So what Krishna is saying is that when somebody does a Laukya karma or a Vaidika karma, it doesn't matter. So then tasya aradhanam ihate. So, and worship that deity with faith. What is going to happen? Labhante cha tahta kaman. His desires will be fulfilled. For example, if he pursue Kubera through the means Laukikya marga, meaning you invest properly, you study properly, you put all your effort and you do, what happens? According to the law of karma, you will get result. According to the law of karma, underline that. That is very important. According to the law of karma, you will get the result. So you feel that that particular result is given to you or granted to you by the deity. So you think that Kubera granted to you that deity, or Saraswati granted you that wish, or Vishnu granted that wish to you. But Krishna tells, understand that who gives that result to you? I give. I means not Krishna, the Supreme Lord, the God of the cosmos, or the absolute reality. So he tells, Mayeva Vihitan Hitan. All these results, even though they comes through their hand, ultimately it came from me. So the power of every other deity, whether it is Indra, Varuna, Mitra, all these Vedic deities, all the phenomenal forces, all the Supreme Lord like Brahma, Vishnu and Maheshwara, every power is the power of Brahman. So without Brahman, these deities cannot function at all. So these deities are nothing but a manifestation of that power. So whatever results you get because of your sincere worship to any other deities, know that there is only one God of the universe, and that one God is absolute reality, Brahman, and all the results of the action. Because that is why he is called as, a term is there in our Vedic culture, Karma Phala Dada. He is the giver of the result of action. So he gives that result according to the law of karma, no partiality at all. So understand that all these results are coming from me only. So this is what the next verse is. It's very important to understand that whether you pray to Brahma, what happens in America is people are scared, right? So again, I'm quoting Swami Chinmayananda. In his final lecture, he was joking the temple building in America, how it goes on. So what you do is the trustees of the temple will have somebody from north, south, Karnataka, Kerala, Andhra, Punjab, everywhere. So every deity will take their position in the temple, and eventually the temple becomes a zoo of gods. That's what the language he has used. And then you do one arati here, you have to have a priest here following the Punjabi ritual. There's nothing wrong in that. Means he's not criticizing, he was just saying, understanding the wrong belief. There is only one God, right? So the main sanctum sanctorium, in ancient times, how do we used to build a temple in India? A teacher, a master used to say, right? A Shankaracharya or like a Narayana Guru, they say that, okay, this place needs to have a temple. And who pick up the deity? The Acharya picks up. Shankaracharya picked up Sharda Devi, right, in Mookampika. Yeah. And Narayana Guru picked up Lord Shiva in his first Aruvipuram Pradishta. And he picked up Sharda Devi again for the Brahma Vidya. So they pick up and they just make it, and they design the ritual there. What exactly is the mode of? So because it doesn't matter whether it is Shiva or a Krishna or a Devi or a Muruga, it doesn't matter. All that is means it's just the different manifestation of the one form. So people, especially with our kids, we need to tell them that we don't have multiple gods. We have only one God. The God of the cosmos is one, and that doesn't have any name or a form, and everything else is a symbolic representation of that one. So this is what it is. Let's details a little bit.
Raj, I have a question.
Yeah.
In the previous one, so a person who is in pursuit of self-knowledge, like maybe he's in a jignasu or on the way to jnani position, right? So if suppose he comes across a major problem, like for example sickness, okay, in that case he's going to pray to Bhagavan and to make sure that, so if that doesn't work or if that doesn't succeed, because here it's Bhagavan says, I will make sure that his faith is stable, so I will grant him that wish. So for some reason like that happens, so what is the mental state of that person who had belief.
Death happens means, of course, he is gone, but other people, see, the thing is, that is where the understanding has to be. That is exactly what I was explaining earlier. Sometimes we feel that, for example, a person who is doing spiritual, he's a jignasu, he's doing every action. And suppose he found that he has a terminal disease. So he goes to and pray to Lord Vaidyanatha. Of course, he was praying up to Dakshinamurti for seeking knowledge. When he came to know this, he started praying to Vaidyanatha, who is the Lord of all the medical form. And eventually what happened? His organs started failing and he is going to pass away. If he means he needs to understand that, yeah. So he did his job, prayer, and why Lord didn't means give the way the result he wanted in the overall scheme of things. This is what at least I believe is important, that his life has to end at that point of time, because means that is his karma, that is his prarabdha, and that will not be overruled normally. And for his own benefit, this is better. And I still remember Swami Dayananda giving me one example. He was telling me that when you go to when somebody goes to a hospital, I know, like, there was a very good script writer in Malayalam. His name is Lohita Das. You won't believe, such a wonderful writer, such a genius. He was only 54. They found 3 blocks in his heart. And what the doctor in the major hospital prescribed is an immediate surgery. He was so upset, in spite of this knowledge, he was upset that it was not fair to do the surgery. So the doctor prescribed that surgery, which is the baddest experience, because that was needed for him. So like that, this particular experience should be needed for me. This is not to judge anybody, but for my own spiritual progress, my own evolution, that would be the best thing. It would be difficult for me to conceive that from where I'm standing right now, because I see my life only that snapshot. When I look at somebody, right, I believe that he was born here and he is ending here. But actually speaking, right, what is getting birth and what is getting death is only his physical body. He is continuing and he is going to go to a next experience, and definitely this is going to help him. So that way we have to send him positively. Of course, we have a right and we should be praying, because it is the most difficult thing for anybody's life is to see the loved one passing away. It is a tragedy for us. It is a tragedy for them. But of course, it means we need to be sorrowful, and that is why in our culture a certain number of days were given for that mourning. But after that, the life has to move on, because we have to believe in that universal intelligence, because the intelligent order of the universe will not fail. The human laws will fail, the human systems will fail, but the intelligent order of the universe will not fail. Something happens, it is required for us. If you have that, that means we'll see this in the Karma Yoga later point of time, when we are going to see in the second chapter. This attitude is going to make me accept things positively, and it is going to reduce the risk completely. It is going to reduce the emotional feeling completely. And I told you the example of Swami Dayananda. Like 2 weeks, he knew that he is going to die in 2 weeks. How can you see somebody laughing and joking and making fun about his own death? How can you do that? Because of that belief and in that understanding, because of it cannot come but through that knowledge. And this is the most interesting thing I've seen. Like, he was making joke about his own death and how people are going to bury him and all those type of things. How confident and strength he had. So this is from this understanding. This is not far away. Like, this is 3 years, 4 years back. We all see that. It is in our eyes. It is not we are talking about somebody 2000 years back who exhibited this. It is in our own lifetime. So understanding is the only means. Sometimes your child really wanted to do something and you know that it is not good for him. So sometimes she or he may cry. He may be he may cry for days, but still you know that only out of love I have done that for him. That's the example. Out of the universal Father, out of his kindness, he will only do what is good for us. Believe that Mata Te, means he is my father, Parvati Devi is my mother. So once we have that understanding, it will help us to face any situation, and that is what is expected from the study of Vedanta. So the Vedanta is going to give me that knowledge and face the reality. And Vivekananda used to say, right, a successful person is a person who can face failure. Skill set to face failure. He can be only successful. Nobody will be successful always. So if you can face failure brilliantly, then there is a hope for you. Unfortunately, like in our childhood, I think this is one problem with the Indian upbringing, right? In that rat race, even a small failure will not be tolerated, and you will be raised as so risk-averse people. And as a result, what happens? You won't do anything. You will sit where you are. And this is the Indian Hindu, one of the problem. But that's not what Bhagavad Gita and all teaching. You have to believe in God and do the best. Do the best and leave the rest.
That failure thing was said by Vivekananda, Rajesh.
Yeah, it is. Vivekananda said that.
That's a great point. Yeah.
And Vivekananda was so you all read, means I'm reading that book. Please read. It's just $199. You can get that from Kindle now. The complete works, 4,000 pages. But keep in mind that it is transcribed notes. So you have to adjust some of those mistakes, because his English disciples and Indian disciples, whatever they transcribed, they put. It's not that Vivekananda sat down and wrote the book. He was giving lectures and somebody was transcribing it. So in one situation, he tells, if I cannot face the situation, I will retreat. That is intelligence. So that is the style, means the courage and conviction and integrity. You have to believe in yourself, and you have to believe in Ishvara, and you have to believe in the universal reality of Ishvara. And finally, that is how it is.
I have a copy of it. I'll actually share it in the library.
Yeah, please.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just recently downloaded, so I'll share it.
Okay. My God, you have all the books.
It's not enough time to read.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I saw the Mahabharata. It is good. You have all the chapters.
Yes, I
all
do.
the 100,000 verses there. Wonderful. Okay, so any questions? Otherwise, we'll chant. I have a very hard stop at 9:30 today. So, yeah,
Rajesh, can you share that Swami Dayanandaji's link in the last speech?
Yeah, I may have to look and share it, but I will do that.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, so we have Anu in the call. So Anu, if you can chant, that would be great. But before that, Bhunaji, Anu is graciously offered us to teach the chanting. Anu is professionally trained in chanting. She learned the chanting very properly. So she's going to do some classes very soon. Maybe after a month or two, I will talk to Anu and schedule the details. It will be Sunday, 6 o'clock, 6 to 6:30. She will teach. Kids and adults can join. Chapter 1, verse 1 onwards. Those who want to chant, this is a good opportunity. So No, you can chant from, if you don't mind, you can chant from 20 to 23.
Okay. कामैस्तैस्तैर्हृतज्ञानाः प्रपद्यन्ते कामैस्तैस्तैर्हृतज्ञानाः प्रपद्यन्ते न्यदेवताः तं तं नियममास्थाय प्रकृत्या नियताः स्वया यो यो यां यां तनुं भक्तः श्रद्धयार्चितुमिच्छति तस्य तस्याचलां श्रद्धां तामेव विदधाम्यहम् सतया श्रद्धया युक्तः तस्याराधनमीहते लभते च ततः कामान् मयैव विहितान् हितान् अन्तवत्तु फलं तेषां तद्भवत्यल्पमेधसां देवान् देवयजो यान्ति मद्भक्ता यान्ति मामपि अव्यक्तं व्यक्तिमापन्नं मन्यन्ते मामबुद्धयः परं भावमजानन्तः ममाव्ययमनुत्तमम्.
Very good. Thank you. So we'll see next week.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Rajesh.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Rajesh.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.